and relatively downtrodden to this day. The dominant architecture was both the famed working-class triple-decker, so much in evidence in 100 other soot-stained, reinvented ancient New England towns, and a less definable 2.5-story structure, often clad in scalloped gray, pressed board siding, whose sole distinguishable attribute was that it didn't look anything more than a roof over 4 walls of marginal integrity. The address Ron Klaszewski had offered was one of the former, and therefore of modest historical merit, minus any grace notes of subsequent care or maintenance. In fact, as Willie swung out of the car he and Sammy shared to get there, he wondered if the electrical and phone lines looping in from the nearby utility pole weren't the only modern amenities added over the prior 75 years, including the paint on the walls. "You ever been here?" he asked his partner. Sam was reaching into the back seat to grab a canvas shoulder bag she favored for crime scene investigations. "Seems like our kind of place, but I don't know for sure." Willie was standing by the car, studying the structure in the slowly growing dawn. It was peeling, sagging, and gaping where stair and balcony railings had vanished over time. His left hand, as always, was stuffed into his pants pocket, the useless tail end of an arm crippled years ago by a rifle round received in the line of duty. His powerful right hand remained empty. No extra equipment for him, not at this early stage. "A hanging, about 8 years ago." Sammy pulled her head out of the car. "What?" "A hanging," he repeated. "That's it, about 8 years ago. That's how I know this dump." She smiled, if just barely. Trust him to remember that, and almost everything else, in fact, except the everyday rules of social conduct. In that way, he reminded her of an idiot savant who could play the concert piano but not read a comic book. The man was a dinosaur, an old-fashioned, old-school cop, a black-and-white man in a colorful world. She loved him for that, among other quirks. She adjusted her bag and motioned across the street. "Shall we?" There were already 2 PD cruisers parked by the curb, along with an unmarked Impala that should have had "cop" stamped on both doors. A couple of patrolmen were stringing crime scene tape around the building, and a third was loitering by the entrance at the top of the rickety porch steps, clipboard in hand. A broad smile creased his weather-beaten face as he caught sight of them approaching. "Uh-oh, watch out, it's the cavalry." The 2 of them spoke simultaneously, Sam saying, "Hey, Zippo, how you been?" while Willie responded, "It's the brain trust, asshole, come to save your butt again." Zippo just laughed, knowing them both well. "Beauty and the Beast, God help us." He jerked his thumb over his shoulder and applied pen to clipboard as he spoke. "Second floor, apartment 3. They filed by into the fetid embrace of the dark first-floor lobby, stifling even at this early hour. Summer had kicked in at last, following a winter of more snowfall than the region had seen in years. Typically, it had taken barely a week for everyone to switch from enjoying the warmth to complaining about the heat. New Englanders tend to be hardier in the cold than they are in its absence, making Florida as the terminus for so many of them conceptually rational only because of its universal air conditioning. "Jesus," Willie groaned. As Sam well knew, the man, despite his marginal manners, was a neat freak at heart, and while he spent most of his time working in these environments, his soul quailed at the squalor. At the second-floor landing, they were met by a poster boy for the average American male Caucasian. Sammy walked up to him and gave him a hug. "Ron, it's great to see you. How's the family?" Ron nodded to Willie over her shoulder. "Hi, guys. Everybody's great. How you doing, Willie?" Willie frowned and glanced at the open door of the nearby apartment. "I'm doing. This the place?" Ron broke from Sam and bowed slightly at the waist in mock homage. "It is. We've staged down the hall. There. You can get a Tyvek suit and booties and the rest from Phil. I also called the crime lab. Their ETA..."